Welcome back to the Growth Over Goals podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Montgomery. And today I get to spend time with someone who is not just elite in one area, but in multiple areas. In fact, I'm going to go as far as to say this is the most versatile guest we've ever interviewed in terms of talent and ability. Most people know him from his time on the gridiron. He was an elite football player. Matter of fact, he was a Heisman Trophy winner, represented the Ohio State University. He went on to be a 4-time Pro Bowler in the NFL, one of the only NFL running backs to rush for 10,000 yards and never miss a start. So durability, endurance, had an incredible career. Recently had his jersey retired with the Tennessee Titans and went down as one of the best running backs to ever play the game of football at any level. After football, check this out. He's been on Broadway. He's been in shows. He got his MBA from Northwestern. He's a loving husband, dad, and he's now the coach at Bowling Green, the head coach of the Falcons, and he's got a big fall in front of him. Our guest today is Eddie George. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Jordan, thank you for that incredible intro, brother. I got to have you do that when they introduce me to my team. That is,
Well,
it's
it's
I
easy.
don't have
Hey,
to do too much.
it's easy to do, man. It's a lot of life you put into 50 years, man. So
Yeah, it's
you
been
know,
amazing. But also, if you can do that when I come home from work,
yes,
like introduce me to my family and my wife. Just say,
I
hey,
just follow you
coming home from a
in the
hard day's
back
work,
door.
right?
Yeah, hey,
That
I'm
would
there,
be
man.
good.
I'm there. Just remind
Yeah,
them of who you
yeah,
are. You know. Uh,
yes, yes.
hey, and I did not say this, but I do appreciate just your genuine spirit and your humility. And I enjoyed one of my favorite parts of training camp. That's how we met.
Yep.
John Gordon's event in Ponte Vedra, which was so incredible. I hope you come again next year and on May 1st. But one of my highlights was riding in the Uber with you back to the airport, and we were just
Hmm.
talking life and leadership and faith, and you have such a genuine way about you and just making other people feel valued and important. And I watched how you connected with folks at training camp, just fully present and taking time to address people and spend time with people that you did not know. And so I
Hmm.
just want you to know that I see that. And I think
No,
that's also shown up in your ability to drive impact and have success. I should have also mentioned you're a wealth management advisor. There's not much that you haven't done. It's easier to do the not done
well, I
list.
haven't, you know, found a cure for cancer or done heart surgery. That's I haven't done that. So,
Just add that to the vision board. You know,
right,
you're still
right,
working
right.
toward that. So hey, listen,
Yes.
man, you it would be easy. It would be easy for people to assume that your upbringing and specifically your childhood was easy. I mean, you are this really physically impressive, charismatic guy who does have some
Mhm.
supernatural gifts. You have also worked really, really hard to steward those gifts. And there's parts of your story, specifically in your high school years,
Yeah.
that I think would be very surprising to most people. So, can we go back to Eddie George, the boy, take us back to your younger years
Hmm.
and really where you first started to kind of see yourself as a leader with some unique gifts?
Well, yeah, I can go back, man. Like when I grew up in Philadelphia, kind of like my teenage years, I was very shy, extremely shy. Always under my mother's leg, never really wanted to talk, barely spoke 2 words to anybody. Uh, and I just loved playing football. I never was very talkative. I'm kind of introverted to some degree in my own little world. I was always, I had these little, remember the electric football game that buzzed? If you're old, you remember that by
Yeah.
any
Oh yeah.
chance?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't
Yeah.
know if you were that
That
old
was your
school,
game.
but
That was your game.
and it still is to this day. I still get goosebumps when I play that game because it's the game of football. So always,
Yeah.
everywhere I went, I was playing football by myself with the team imagining plays and scenarios and
Mm.
championships, and I was in my own little world. So I say all that to say, grew up, that way. So it was really tough for me to really find my voice. But as I got older and I became more sociable, I became more of a class clown and not taking things serious. And I have to say that my father wasn't in my life a lot at the time. He was dealing with his issues in the streets, but I loved my father, and I wanted to please my dad, and I wanted for us to have a family again. My mom, my father,
Mm.
my father, my mom, and my dad were divorced at the time,
Mm.
and that's what I always wanted, and I was hoping that by me playing football could bring my family back together again.
Mm.
So, as I got older, um, my grades were getting worse and worse, and I wasn't going to class. I was going down this path of nowhere. But I had this image in my mind that I was going to go to a major school like a Penn State or a Virginia or Ohio State and go on and be the superstar running back. Um, but that was not the case. I was at that time maybe barely 6 feet. I was 168 pounds soaking wet. I was known as Skinny Eddie. Um, wasn't very fast, had no drive, no work ethic. But in my mind, I kept seeing that, man, one day I'm going to, go to the NFL. I'm going to do these great things and accomplish all this stuff and make my family proud and go on to, do whatever God allowed me to do. Um, but it wasn't until my sophomore year when reality smacked me in the face. Came home from school one day and I saw my mother through a window and she was crying in my grandmother's basement,
Mhm.
looking at my report card and just bawling, like to the point of she had no air. She was like exhausted of every possible bullet she can shoot to get me to do right, to put me in the boys
Mm.
club and Royal Rangers and put me in classes that could help me become a better student. Everything. She tried pulled every trick out of the book just to try to figure out how can I get him to shape up because if not, I'm going to lose my son. He's going to succumb to the streets of Philadelphia. And my grandmother raised me right, but I was just
Mm.
a kid with a lot of ambition, but really no blueprint that I could draw off of success. So she had to pull me out of Philadelphia when I was 15 years old. Drove down,
Mm.
packed her 1981 orange T Wing Mustang
Mm.
up, and we drove down to Fort Greene Military Academy. It was 7.5 hours, and that's where um, this first brick was laid in terms of discipline
Mm.
and an appreciation for education and respect for others, respect for my hierarchy. I didn't have respect for a lot of people, and especially people that were telling me my teachers. I didn't respect them. Was disruptive in class, so I had to learn a lot. Very arrogant kid, and thought that I was tough, but I wasn't. And I had to learn how to be tough. And it was some very very tough moments for me, eye-opening moments and epiphanies that I had at Fort Greene Military Academy where I realized that this is the place I needed to be in order for me to accomplish the things that I dreamt about.
Mm.
And it wasn't just going to be about me just being there. I had to go and do the work. I
Yeah.
had to wake up and do the work. I know I had to study and I had to become a better leader. I had to operate with integrity.
Mm.
I had to really dig deep and be honest with the man in the mirror about who I was and what I wanted to become. And I had to make the right choices in terms of who I was going to hang around.
Mm.
So all of that, the foundation with the work ethic, the grind, the struggles, the setbacks, the failures that I had at Fort Union really set me up for success in the future. And that experience saved my life And I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about being a head coach had it not, or a Heisman Trophy winner, or got my master's
Mm.
in business, or been on Broadway, or done all the things that you talked about without that experience and without the people like a Coach Mickey Sullivan, a John Schumann, um, some of the great people that were at Fort Lee Military Academy that really helped, shaped, and formed my life through tough love.
Mm.
And it was an awesome experience. I look back on it.
So your mom makes this loving but very difficult decision
Yeah.
to send you away.
Oh yeah.
And to your credit, you did the work. You start to grow and develop. And then by the time you're a senior, you're getting recognized, schools all across the country. Most people find it surprising, like I did when I first got to know you, that Penn State was actually your dream school. But talk to us about how you ended up at Ohio State, because you have this conversation with Joe
Yeah.
Pa and then decide maybe Penn State is not the school.
Well, I think it's important to, in this story that I got to point out that period, like after my senior year, I didn't immediately go to Ohio State. I went back for a postgraduate year
That's right.
because I didn't have schools to pick from. I had one offer, a partial offer to go to Edinburgh in Pennsylvania my senior
That's
year.
right.
And this is after rushing for, 1,400 yards, had 22 touchdowns. I was first team all state, and I had nowhere to go.
And
I mean,
why
I
was that,
remember
Eddie?
on,
Why was that?
well, I didn't have my grades weren't great, but they were getting better, but they weren't stellar. Didn't have my SAT scores at the time. And to be honest with you, I wasn't a D1 player at that point in time. They didn't view me as that. And I was crushed on signing day. Like, man, all my friends are going to a school. What are my options? I didn't want to go back to Fort Union for a postgraduate year. I mean, matter of fact, Kevin Plank, who was the CEO and the founder of Under Armour, was at Fort Union at the time. We had a conversation. He said, man, what are you going to do next? Like, man, you better get out of here. You better, graduate and get the hell out of Fort Union. There's nothing else here for you. But I had no other options. And
Mm.
everybody thought I was crazy. I said, man, you're going to come back for what? And you think you're going to get what? you know? And I had to put all my chips on the table that summer, and become the best player I could be. I had the conversation with Coach Mickey Sullivan, who ironically just got into the High School Football Hall of Fame, the National High School Football Hall of Fame in Canton.
Mm.
He said, "Hey, if you come back, you first of all, you've got to come back and commit to being a better student. You must do that.
Mm.
You got to come back bigger, stronger, faster than ever, and let's see what happens." And that summer, I went back to Philadelphia, and I worked out with a group of guys at the University of Pennsylvania. A Sunday out of Rush, Mike, oh God, Mike Thompson, or Mike Johnson, uh, uh, Michael Phillips, just
Mm.
a group of guys that were older, more mature than me, and I needed to be around them to learn how to work to really compete against them. As I felt like if I could compete at guys that are already doing it at a high level and learn how to work on a collegiate level, when I get back to Fort Union, I'm going to be a dominant force. And
And then you did, right? You
I
went
did
back
just
and
that.
things explode for you that year
Everything
specifically.
exploded. That year, the first 5 games, I want to say I had 1,400 yards, 15 touchdowns. And that's when I started to get some national prominence, started to get some eyes on me. It was Virginia, Louisville, BYU, Nebraska, uh, Penn State. I went up to a game at Notre Dame, and actually Jerome Bettis was playing in that game as well. He's one of my best friends. And I went into the locker room after the game, and Joe Pa looked at me, and he remembered me from my days when I was going there for the football camp. So like coming up through high school, they're like, "Man, you got big. Where are you now?" Like they had no idea where I was. I said, "I'm at Fort King
Yeah.
Military Academy." They looked me up and down, and Bill Bradley said, "Hey, I'm calling you on Monday." And he called me on Monday and was like, "Gosh, man, we want to bring you up for a visit." And I said that I had to be honest. This is my dream school. If I come, I'm more than likely I'm going to commit. But is this for me to play running back, or is this for another position. He says, well, I'm gonna be honest with you, we have some young running backs, and they did. They had Kajana Carter, Mike Archie,
Mm,
Stephen Pitts, the top of the top running backs in the country. We know Kajana Carter was a beast.
mm. Yep.
And they were like, you're probably not going to play your first year here with him. So we're going to try a linebacker. And I was like, my heart was crushed. So all I wanted to do
Yeah.
was wear the black
Yeah.
shoes and the blue jersey, white pants. And
Mm,
I grew up a Penn State fan. And
yeah.
Ohio State had looked at my tape, talked about me coming up for a visit, came up there. And that's when I knew that that was the place for me. You know, it was
Mm,
far enough away from Philadelphia for me to grow and to develop and be my own man, but close enough for me to get back for my family to see me. And at that particular time, Ohio State was on their way back to national prominence to be one of the elite
mm,
teams. And I wanted to be a part of that. I didn't necessarily want to go to a team that was already vying for a national championship. I wanted to be a part of something special and help them build back to being the Buckeyes. And I was like, yo, this I get goosebumps when I think about it. I see the silver, the scarlet and gray,
Scarlet and Gray,
Woody
man.
Hayes and Earl Bruce and Spillman, Chris Carter,
Mm,
Archie Griffith, all the great players that have played this, the opportunity to play in the greatest rivalry in all of sports
mm.
in the Big Ten. I was like, oh, this, and just give me the opportunity. Just this lets me say, hey, you can go out there, you can compete for the starting job. And I said, that's all I needed. I'll take care of the rest. And
And
the rest is history.
and you competed. And again, most people would assume, well, that was easy street. You're a
Oh,
big time
no.
recruit. You come in and you have a very interesting freshman season at Ohio State. Tell us about it.
Yes, yes. Well, I get there in the spring of 1992, and I'm just trying to find a way on the field. I mean, this backfield is loaded, it's talented, it's deep. You have what, three, four guys that have played in the NFL, the NFL roster in that room in that time.
Mm,
Uh, Raymond Harris, Butler Benote, Robert Smith, Jeff Cothran,
mm.
Dante Lee just left, Scotty Graham just left, and Carlos Snow
Crazy.
all left. That 8 deep.
Yeah.
And not to
Crazy.
mention, they've already recruited two of the top two running backs in the country, Travis Aguirre and Lou Willard, and then it was me.
Mm,
So I tried to find a role, and my role was a goal line running back. And I did it throughout the spring. I tried to run aggressive. I was trying to run guys over. And again, I was trying to make a splash my freshman year. Um, I get in as a goal line running back, short yardage specialist. And my first game, ironically, was against Bowling Green. They put me in. I scored my first touchdown in my career. It wasn't garbage time. It was in the first quarter, first play. And I was pumped. I mean, I was like elated, and I was on
yeah.
cloud nine. And then a couple weeks later, I scored on national television, three touchdowns against Syracuse on national TV. And that's when the
Mhm.
touchdown Eddie chance started happening. Eddie, right? And it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. And then we played the Big Ten schedule, and that's when life changes.
Mm,
And we played against Illinois, who had boasted the best defense in the country at that time. And they had some dudes on that defense: Dana Howard, Alachek, Simeon Rice,
mm,
Kevin Hardy,
mm.
and a defensive line that was nasty. I mean, they were no joke. And this game was pivotal because it was going to give whoever won this game was going to have the inside track to play for a national championship,
Mm.
also go to the Rose Bowl for the Big Ten title. So first series of the game, we marched the ball all the way down the field, and I get into right around the 3 yard line or so. Then I come in the game, and I it was an ISO to the left. I get the ball, and they did a nice job of knifing through, getting penetration to stop me in my tracks. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go down gracefully and live to see another down. But as I'm going down, the ball gets punched out of my arm, bounces twice off the turf, and the defender picks up the ball and runs it back 97 yards for a touchdown, which is still a Big Ten record to this day. and the Eddie Chance turned to booze real quick.
Mm.
But the game was still tight. They still believed in me. The very next drive, they go down. I score a touchdown. I ran somebody square over, man. I was pissed. I ran him over. I was hot. We scored. Now I bounced back. I'm okay. 1 for 1. Okay, I got back in the end zone. And again, this is a classic Big Ten matchup. The score is 18-16.
Mm.
All we need to do is kick a field goal. And we get down the 5-yard line. Game-winning touchdown in my hands.
Mm.
Tall sweep to the left, take the pitch, see it in my hands. The next step I take, the ball gets popped out from a backside defender. Ball comes out.
Mm.
They recover, game over. And that's when my season was done. My confidence was shot.
Ah.
They say that, hey, a player doesn't lose the game. No, I lost the game.
Mm.
And I carried that as an 18-year-old. So obviously, to go from where I came from, you think about that my life, like, man, I found a way to get into college. Finally get to college. I'm living my dream. Want to make my family
Mm.
proud, playing at Ohio State, living my dream, get the opportunity to play, boom. That with adversity. And then it was like, well, how am I going to get out of this doghouse? And then that's where I had to dig really deep
Mm.
within myself, with my confidence, to build my confidence back up to become the best player I could possibly be.
Well, it is true that for so many, those who are used mightily are first wounded deeply. And
Mm.
you see that even thousands of years ago, like before a season of more, there's a season of less. There's a tempering season and a season of
Yeah,
humility. And
yeah, yeah,
God was really
yeah,
preparing you for something very special. Your
yeah,
senior year, you have a magical season. I mean, truly
yeah.
magical. And you obviously go on to win the Heisman Trophy. You end up one of the most decorated players at your position in the history of college football. What was that year like for you, Eddie?
Um, it was very special. My junior year, I finally got a chance to start, and it was like, so for Ohio State standards, it was average to below average. I rushed for 1,300 yards and 15 touchdowns. Yeah, any place else, that
Yeah.
is an amazing year, but
you'll
there,
you'll take
they're
that this
like,
year at Bowling Green if you have a 1,300
oh
yard
my
back.
gosh, absolutely. But the standard was so high, and we're like,
Yeah.
look,
Yeah. Right.
we're going to find somebody else that can get the job. We can't if
Mm.
you're single or not. So yet again, that was my final year, and I looked at our schedule and I said, man, we could have a really, really good football team because we had a lot of returning starters. We had Orlando Pace and
Mm.
Ricky Dudley, uh, Terry Glenn, on the defensive
Mm.
side, Mike Rabel, Luke Fickle, uh,
Man.
Son Springs. We had depth. We had it all. And we suffered a devastating loss that woke us up against Penn State, that we were like, okay, who are we going to become
Mm.
now? And we went there, um, played, they were number one at the time. Again, Kajana Carter was the lead dog, was first pick of the NFL draft that year. Went to Cincinnati, and they beat us 63-14.
Wow.
And, you talk about how do you respond, the ability to respond. Well, I looked at that team and I said, how do we get better? How do we become like them?
Mm.
What did they do in the off season that we missed? They were a team that was well connected. They worked their behinds off during the off season. And I got wind of what the things that they were doing. I said, we're going to mimic just that. We could have the same type of team that team had last year offensively. And they put up some numbers that I don't think today's offense have seen. This was impressive what they've done.
Yeah.
And I looked and said, man, we got the running back, we got an offensive line, we have the quarterback, we have the receivers, we have a defense that can, make some stops for us. Why not us? The only
Mm.
thing that's going to stop us is our work ethic and our commitment to each other, our commitment to the grind.
Mm.
And man, I was working out twice a day.
Mm.
And at Ohio State in summer, with under Dave Kennedy, oof, hey, you was working, you were running, you were lifting, and I was doing these workouts twice in
Wow.
a day and
Wow.
looking to win, not just get through it, but winning.
Mm,
So I learned that process. Like, oh yeah, this I'm emptying the clip on everything. So
mm,
I kind of felt that during that time frame when we were training in the summer and the commitment to coming back after our workouts and having seven competitive 7-on-7 periods, player run practices without the coaches
mm.
was very beneficial for us, and it just carried over. And we came out of the gate just smoking. Played Boston College, and I rushed for 99 yards. I was MVP, and that was the last time that I ever did that season that I didn't have a game over 100 yards.
Wow.
And then it just started to pound. Washington, I had 207, and then Pittsburgh, another 120 yard game. And it was Notre Dame that we played on national TV where we hadn't played them until that time. It was like a 30-year gap since the last time we played Notre Dame. So it was a highly
Mm.
anticipated game. It was the hottest ticket in town, one of the highlight games in college football. I rushed for 207 yards. So it was starting to pile up. And of course,
Yeah.
against Illinois, that's where it just everything just exploded. In three
Mm.
quarters, I rushed for 314 yards and three touchdowns. In three
Crazy.
quarters, I was sitting down for the entire part of the fourth quarter.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's one thing I really admire about your journey. You have extreme success at a very young age. And most of the time, when somebody has extreme success at a young age, they don't necessarily develop an appetite to try new things because they've been so
Mhm.
dominant at one thing. And
Mhm.
by the way, you're still dominant. You're a first round draft pick. You go on to be a Pro Bowl, 4-time Pro Bowl selection in the NFL. Your jersey's now retired by the Tennessee Titans. But what I find really interesting about your journey is you get your MBA from Northwestern.
Mhm.
You end up in a Broadway musical. You're an analyst with Fox and ESPN. You're now doing speaking, and then you decide to become a head coach. So one of the themes about your journey, and we started this way, it's versatility in your gifting, but it's also a willingness to put yourself out there and accept new
Yeah.
challenges and try new things that maybe you're outside of your comfort zone. So I want to ask you, after all the success in football, Eddie, where does that come from? And did you ever stop to think about that that's what you were doing? Or did that just kind of happen organically without you ever really pondering all the new things that you had
Well,
tried?
it wasn't like I was trying to new things just to try new things. I was trying to identify what was next, what my purpose was, what my passions were, and be the best at that. And at that turn, like it was, well, okay, if it's acting, I want to be the best actor I can possibly be. I want to get on Broadway. I want to, be on the silver screen next to Denzel. I want to do a movie with him, whatever success looks like there. But that trained me to be vulnerable.
Mm,
Then, it was the wealth management piece, the entrepreneurship. There were some experiences that I had where I was being taken advantage of. And I wanted to get my master's in business. So I understood the nomenclature. I understood what was going on. And I wasn't going to allow someone to spoon feed me information. And I developed my wealth management business. Well, that prepared me for what we're in now, the NIL space for college football. Then it was the speaking engagements and being the best speaker, well, telling stories.
mm,
So when I look back at it, everything I went after, first of all, I asked God, but where am I going? Where is my next step? They were all stops for training. Every last one of
mm,
them, as an architect, to look at how to build a program from the studs up, from a schematic design to blueprints with details. You know, Everything that I've done has prepared me to be where I am now as a head coach. And guess what? This head coach is preparing me to do something else. I don't know. I hope that
powerful.
this is the last stop. Hopefully, I can, just continue to do this for the rest of my life because everything that I've done fits
Mm,
and it helps and it's aided me, prepared me for this. I didn't necessarily, have to go through the traditional route of being and becoming head coach. And And I understand, there's some coaches out there that have been in the business for 30 years, and I've been blessed enough to come in the way that I have.
Mm,
Very humble, very grateful for that. So it's it was a different plan, a different path for me, and that's kind of how I see it.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't anything like, hey, this morning, oh, I feel like I'm gonna, I don't know, try something different. I'm gonna be a lawyer. you know,
Right.
that's not. It
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
that. It was
Yeah.
very intentional.
Mm,
I pray over it a lot. I sometimes I tend to drag my feet on the decision to make sure it's the right thing. I'm always looking to dot every I, cross every T, measure twice, cut once. That's
yeah.
kind of been my approach to everything. So I'm not just doing something just to do it. There's
Mm,
a meaning, there's intention behind it, there's a feeling, there's a calling to have impact in some capacity and to learn, to grow, and to be developed in that particular thing. So all of that, being exposed to that has nurtured that seed that's been in me to become a bigger picture than what I could ever imagine. So that was it. And everybody it has their own path to it. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
you're not your job. You coach, yes, you're commentator, yes, but that's not who you are. That's what you do.
That's right.
You're not a football
That's right.
player. You're not a podcaster. You're not an influencer. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that's things that you do, but who you are is a person that's finding out your gifts, your value, how you're adding value to others, and how you're
Mm,
impacting others, and how you're growing, and ultimately, what is God's purpose? And I've had to I try to do on my own and seek create these things that I think are a success, but what's successful to me is when I lay my head on that pillow at night, I have a good night's rest and it's peaceful.
mm,
I'm at peace at what I've done, what I've accomplished, and where I am and where I'm going. The good, the bad, and the ugly. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So that's it.
Well, I think you've been incredibly intentional and you've operated with a sense of urgency, but I think you have exercised strategic patience and wisdom and discernment in what God has for you.
Mhm.
What I heard you say as you were describing all those new experiences is that the reward for your hard work wasn't what you got from it, but who you became by it.
That's right.
And I
That's right.
think your faith has been a huge part of that. You've talked about
Yeah.
prayer now a couple times.
All
And
right.
at training camp in Ponte Vedra with John Gordon and others, you gave this awesome acronym on faith
Mhm.
and the role that faith has played in your life. And I
Yeah.
also commend you on being a public figure who wears faith on your sleeve, tactfully
Mhm.
and in the right ways. But I would love for our audience to hear this acronym, Eddie, on faith, because this was really compelling. I thought this was one of the better messages just in all of training camp. So can you
Mhm.
can you download that message in just a few minutes for
Yeah.
our audience?
Well, I came up with the acronym for faith last year, actually around this time. John asked me to come on his podcast to speak to a group last year, and I was coming off a vacation. And this is during the time that I was trying to figure out, well, what's my one word? And I was stuck on, two. It was faith and trust. And I was like, because of where I was going and being at Tennessee State at the time, and trusting the work that we put in and everything else. So I'm just saying, well, what is faith? Faith can't just be I have faith. Faith is an action.
Hmm.
Without faith, works without doing the work, your faith is dead, so to
Mm,
speak.
mm,
And I said, well, what is it? What does living with faith mean? And it's eliminating the distractions and eliminating the doubt, the fear, all of that. So, it's something that you do um, consistently and along with prayer and having courage. And the F stands for focus. What do you constantly focus on moment to moment? Life is going to hit you from all different angles, and how you respond to that matters. And what you're focused on is what matters. So if you're keeping your eye on that prize,
Mm.
the vision that God has for you, regardless of whether you see it or not, if you think you're getting there or not, is constantly focusing on that. You know, when I believe it was disciple who was walking on, well, Jesus walked on water, and I think one of the disciples, can't remember which one it was it Paul or Peter,
Peter. Yep.
or it's Peter.
Yep.
Peter walked out on water in faith,
Yep.
and he's walking toward Jesus, and he is feeling it. He's like,
Mm.
"Oh man, God, I this is incredible." Living
Yeah.
the life, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, wait, hold on, I'm walking on water." The
Yeah.
reality hit him, and then
Yeah.
he saw the wind, he saw the waves, and that's when he began to lose faith and began to sink because he lost focus.
Mm.
So when we look at the fear, when we look at the doubt, we look at the lost job, we look at the fumbles, we look at all of these
Mm.
things that life is presenting to us, we lose focus on our purpose.
Mm.
But if we learn to have the discipline to stay focused on your God given purpose, on Christ, on prayer, on meditation, all the right things that are of the Spirit,
Mm.
that's when you can follow through and walk in faith and walk on that water, regardless of what you see.
Mm.
It's the focus.
It's good.
And the A stands for attitude. As you're seeing the wind and despair and doubt and fear and discouragement, having the positive attitude through it all, being able to say, hey, I choose to see the blessing in this season where I'm not getting my just due and things aren't going well. I don't have a job. What am I to learn? How am I to grow? One of the things that I believe for our team to be really special is how do we handle adversity? How
Mm.
do we handle getting punched in the mouth? How do we handle a loss? Because our perspective of that is much more important than actually winning and losing. We learn to
That's
learn
right.
and grow through those periods. That's choosing to have a positive attitude,
Mm.
intentionality, living life with intentions. The moment that you wake up, have a ritual of doing your prayer and meditation, setting your intention for the day, getting around the right people that
Mm.
are of like minds, that's going to hold you accountable, lift you up, call you up, you know, pull you up to the standards, to the life that you need to be living. Um, from a mental perspective, listening to great podcasts, listening to positive messaging, uh, doing things that are going to support and encourage you from a mental perspective so you have the right frame of mind, but also prayer to protect your thoughts from the doubt, the fear, the
Mm.
decision, all of that. Um, and then living your life with intention in that perspective. So the T is the trust, you know, trusting the process, trusting
Mm.
God's plan, trusting your training,
Mm.
trusting that everything that you've gone through, the good and the bad, is meant for you, it's meant for your good. It's meant to
Mm.
take you to another level.
Come on.
And I'm a living testimony of that. And then the H is for help,
Yeah.
seeking the help and being the help, seeking God's help, going to counsel, going to your pastor, going to church, going to counseling if need be. And then once you sought the help, you learn from that is turn around and help someone else in
Mm.
need, be a blessing to others. And that's what living with faith is that acronym right there. And if you living that way, you don't have time to think about anything negative to come in because you're living a life of gratitude.
That's
You're
right.
living a life of trust. You're
That's
living a
right.
life of intentionality. You're living a life of focus. And that is the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's one of the pillars that we're building this foundation on, and at Bowling Green State University, that I'm bringing to our players, is that we're walking, truly walking by faith and not by sight.
Yeah. Well, I think you are in a position to disciple young men and lead young men and teach. And I think all of your life experiences have prepared you for this moment, the good and the bad. I was just interviewing Shante Lowe the other day on a podcast, and we were
Hmm.
talking about this idea that so often God's preparation is packaged as pain. And so you go
Hmm.
back to who Eddie was as a young man and some of these experiences in your high school years and your freshman year of college. And I just see it in you, man. I see a person who's been humbled. I see a person who's gone through stuff, but I see a man who is pursuing Jesus with all that he has and putting him at the center of his mission. And I think God will continue to honor that. So, man, I'm just wishing you the best. I'm excited
Thank you,
for
brother.
this chapter of your life as a coach. Man, these young men are so lucky to have you as a mentor and a leader in their life. And I think you're going to have a lot of impact at Bowling Green State University.
But Jordan, but before you wrap up, I'm lucky to have them. I am. Because it's not just about what I'm giving them, is what they give me. They give me a reason to seek God in a deeper way, because there's no way I could have done this without them. There's no way that I could have done the things that we've been able to do at Tennessee State without the discernment, without the pursuing, without the meditation, the prayer, and truly trusting and seeing God work in miraculous ways. So, they hold me accountable, and they make sure that I have to wake up and be the best version for myself for them. So it's truly give and take, man.
That's good.
I definitely had to say that.
Well, I love that you have an open mind towards just growth, learning, development. And I go back to this Uber, and we'll land the plane here.
Yeah.
We had spent a little time together at the event, and we're going back to the airport, and we're both catching up on our phones, right? I'm sure you had all kinds of messages and emails. You'd been on for 24 hours at this event. And I just watched the kindness that you showed to me. I'm sitting in the back of the Uber, you're in the passenger seat. But also the driver, who happened to be Cole Gordon's girlfriend. She was so kind, taking us to the airport. And you were intentional, man. Like, you asked great questions, and you showed her kindness, and you made her a part of the conversation. And same with me. Like, you were there to really be curious and to get to know us and to be involved in what's going on in our lives. And man, that is special. So never lose that, man. I love that about you. And I'm just excited to continue to grow a friendship, man, and spend more time with you.
Absolutely, Jordan. Well, thank you for having me, man. It's been a blessing.
This is an honor, man. I'm keeping tabs. I am maybe the newest Falcon fan.
There you go.
So go Bowling Green State. We're wishing you an awesome season, man, and just looking forward to staying in touch for a long time to come.
My man. Appreciate it, Jordan.
Thank you, Eddie. God bless you.
God bless you.
This has been another episode of the Growth Over Goals podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Montgomery, and I want to say thanks again for being with us today. Thanks again to John Choate and his team at Storyline Multimedia for all that they do behind the scenes to make these episodes go. Be well, be great. Have an amazing day.